My name is Sophia, and my parents they sat on our old green couch, smiling broadly at the camera. We're thrilled to share our wonderful news, Mom announced, her hand on her belly. After years of trying, we're finally expecting our son. Dad squeezed her shoulder. The doctors confirmed it yesterday. A boy at last, a chance to carry on the Marlowe name. Our family will be complete, Mom added, her eyes glistening with joyous tears. Sitting cross-legged on the carpet, I tried to process their words. This must have been when Mom was pregnant with my younger brother, Hudson. But something didn't add up. The timestamp on the video was from 12 years ago, and Hudson was only 2. Then it dawned on me. They had been hoping for a boy even before I was born. I was their first attempt, their initial disappointment. Sophia, what are you watching? My grandmother's voice made me jump. She stood in the doorway, a basket of freshly folded laundry in her arms. As she noticed the screen, the basket fell, scattering clothes all over the floor. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered, hurrying to turn off the TV. You weren't supposed to see that. They always wanted a boy, I murmured, my voice barely a whisper. Grandma knelt beside me, her usual complaints of arthritis forgotten, pulling me into a hug. Her scent of lavender and freshly laundered clothes enveloped me, but it couldn't stop my tears. Your parents, she began, then paused, searching for the right words. Sometimes, adults have very specific desires, but that doesn't change your worth. Is that why they sent me to live with you? I asked, pulling away to look at her face. Because I wasn't the boy they wanted? Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. I had been living with Grandma for the past year, thinking it was to give my parents space, or because I was special enough to help with her garden and her baking. Now, I realized they were preparing for a new start with Hudson. Listen to me, Grandma said firmly, gripping my hands. You are perfect just as you are. Some people might not see the treasure they have, but that doesn't make you any less valuable. Her words barely registered as I replayed every distant hug, every perfunctory, that's nice, dear, and every absence at my school events. It all suddenly made sense. That night, as Grandma tucked me into bed, now permanently my room, I asked, do I have to go back home when the baby gets bigger? We'll figure it out together, sweet pea. Whatever happens, you'll always have me, she replied, smoothing my hair back. I nodded, but deep down, something had shifted. The little girl craving her parents' approval was fading, replaced by a burgeoning resolve. Little did I know, this was just the start of a long journey of self-discovery and resilience. Over the next 3 years at Grandma's, before my eventual return home, I was no longer just a child. I was someone learning to navigate and shape my path, slowly mastering a game of perseverance and inner strength. As I stepped into the room, it was overrun with toys, with every surface adorned with colorful alphabet blocks. The background was filled with the constant babble of my younger brother, Hudson. My own bedroom had been transformed into his playroom, and my belongings were shifted to the smaller guest room at the end of the hall. Hudson needs the space more, Mom explained, avoiding eye contact. I nodded in agreement. That's what is expected of a well-behaved child. Yet there's a vast difference between understanding and truly accepting. It quickly became apparent that my new role was that of Hudson as caretaker. As Mom and Dad lavished attention on every one of his actions, I was always by his side, ensuring he was safe. Watch your brother, don't let him put that in his mouth, and why weren't you watching when he tried to climb the bookshelf? Were frequent commands directed at me. On a particularly warm afternoon, Mom asked me to take energetic and fearless 3-year-old Hudson to the park. I sat on a bench, watching him explore the playground. A friend from school approached. Lila, where have you been? She asked. For a short time, as we chatted about school and upcoming events, I felt like a regular 8-year-old again. Then, a scream snapped me back to reality. Hudson had climbed to the top of the play structure and was dangerously close to the edge. My heart raced as I ran towards him, but I wasn't quick enough. He fell, landing with a thud that echoed across the playground. The following hours were a blur of flashing emergency room lights and the sharp tones of my parents' scolding. Hudson was fine, only a sprained wrist and a few bruises, but the way Mom and Dad reacted, you would think I had pushed him. How could you be so irresponsible? Dad yelled in the hospital corridor. He could have been killed. I only looked away for a moment. I whispered, but Mom interrupted. A moment is all it takes. We trusted you with one thing, Lila. One simple thing. A pediatric nurses gave me a sympathetic glance, but hurried on. As my parents continued their reprimand, through the emergency room window, I saw Hudson happily playing with a toy car, his wrist in a bright blue cast, oblivious to the chaos. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I tiptoed to the kitchen for water. I overheard Mom's voice from the living room, filled with doubt. Maybe we made a mistake bringing her back so soon. She's clearly not ready for this responsibility. Dad responded, we can't afford a nanny, and your mother's too old to handle Hudson full-time. I thought she'd be more mature by now, more like the son they wanted. I completed her sentence silently. Retreating to my room, I took out the emergency phone Grandma had given me. I hovered over her number, but then I hesitated. Running to Grandma every time wasn't the answer. I was beginning to realize something crucial. If I wanted my parents' approval, I'd have to earn it. And if not, maybe I could make them regret underestimating me. Looking at my reflection in the dark window, a new resolve flickered in my eyes. Game on, I whispered to my reflection. Let's show them what the disappointing daughter can do. Little did I know, that night would mark the beginning of a plan that would take years to unfold, but would ultimately change everything. By 9, I had learned to move silently through our house, becoming a ghost in my own home. And it was during one of these silent moments that I overheard another conversation that would change everything yet again. Late one evening, as I tiptoed towards the kitchen craving a midnight snack, the murmur of voices halted me. Light seeped through a crack in the door of Dad's study, casting a slender beam across the shadowed hallway. Inside, Dad was discussing finances. The market's been kind to us. If we begin investing now, we should have ample savings for Hudson's college fund when the time comes. I stopped dead in my tracks, stunned. A college fund for Hudson? This was news to me. Mom chimed in, her voice tinged with curiosity. What about that private high school you mentioned earlier? Riverdale Prep, wasn't it? It's pricey, but maybe we could swing it with a few adjustments to our portfolio. Hudson's showing promise in baseball. This could be his chance at a scholarship. Leaning against the wall, my heart pounded. Hudson, only 7 and a month into Little League, was already having his future meticulously planned. Then Mom's voice softened. And what about Sophia's college? She's starting in a few years. A pause hung in the air, followed by the clink of ice in a glass. Sophia's clever. She'll land scholarships if she puts in the effort. Worst case, she can start at a community college, Dad reasoned. Mom sighed, conceding, that's true. She's always been resourceful. Biting my lip, I fought back tears. Resourceful? More like I had no other option. The next morning at breakfast, I watched Mom meticulously cut pancakes for Hudson while my cereal sagged unappealingly. Dad quizzed Hudson on multiplication. What's 7 times 8? He asked. 47. Hudson replied, earning a hair ruffle and praise. I cleared my throat. I scored an A+ on my biology test. Mr. Peterson said it was one of the highest he's seen in years. That's nice, dear. Mom responded distractedly, her focus still on Hudson. Oh, and remember you're watching him after school today. Your dad and I are meeting with his baseball coach. Something inside me snapped. Actually, I can't. I have a study group for the AP exams, I stated, more assertively than usual. Mom frowned. Since when? Last month. I've told you 4 times. They hadn't really listened, not that it mattered. You'll need to reschedule. This meeting is crucial for your brother, Dad insisted without looking up. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping loudly. And what about my futures? A heavy silence fell. Hudson stopped eating, his eyes wide as he looked between us. Mom's voice was stern. Sophia, we need to talk about your attitude. No, we need to talk about how you plan Hudson's life while expecting me to fend for myself. My voice cracked with emotion. Dad placed his coffee cup down calmly. You're overreacting. We support your education. Really? My laugh was bitter. Then why discuss community college for me while planning elite schools for him? They looked stunned. Mom's hand flew to her neck, a nervous gesture I knew well. "You were eavesdropping," Dad accused, his tone sharp. "I live here too," I retorted, my voice firm. "But it's clear now, Hudson's the priority, and I'm just an afterthought." Grabbing my backpack, I stormed out, ignoring their calls to return. As I walked to school, a resolve formed within me. They wanted independence. I'd excel on my own terms. They'd regret overlooking me. That day, I skipped watching Hudson and instead plotted my future in the library, researching scholarships and planning my escape. They could focus on their golden child. I was playing the long game. The day Stanford's acceptance letter arrived, coinciding with Hudson's first home run, only one made the family album. Holding the thick, cream envelope in the kitchen, I knew which achievements truly mattered to them. Growing up, my parents always seemed more impressed by my younger brother Hudson B's achievements in baseball than by my academic accomplishments. At 14, he was already a standout athlete, while at 18, I was excelling academically. The difference in attention we received was stark, and it came into sharp relief the day I announced I had won a full academic scholarship to Stanford. My hands trembled as I spoke, but my voice remained steady. In the middle of celebrating Hudson's latest game, I shared my news. Mom barely looked up from scrubbing his uniform as she muttered a distracted congratulations. When I specified it was Stanford, Dad commented that a local community college would have been more practical given the cost of living in California, even with my scholarship. I countered firmly that I wouldn't need any financial help, making it clear I was achieving this on my own. That moment seemed to catch their attention, perhaps for the first time in years. A flicker of something, pride, maybe concern, crossed Mom's face. But before she could say more, Hudson burst in with news from his coach, and just like that, the focus shifted back to him. Later that evening, overhearing my parents in the study, I felt the sting of their words. They were discussing my decision to move across the country, labeling me selfish for not considering Hudson's needs. My heart sank as Dad revealed they had drained my college savings, $7,000 I had saved from summer jobs and birthday checks to cover Hudson as sports expenses. When confronted, Dad justified it by saying the money was in their names and they made decisions for the whole family. The realization that I barely featured in our family's narrative hit hard. Not a single recent photo of me was displayed in our home, just endless images of Hudson's baseball milestones. I questioned if I still belonged to this family, only to be dismissed by Dad's patronizing response. But something in me hardened. I resolved that attending Stanford would be enough to prove my worth. I shared everything with my grandmother. She encouraged me, hinting that the best kind of revenge was simply doing better for myself. Strengthened by her words, I decided to focus on my future, not on trying to win back the affection that should have been mine by right. As I prepared to leave for college, I packed not just essentials, but also evidence of their neglect, bank statements, videos, and letters. I knew a day might come when they'd need me, and I'd be prepared. My first year at Stanford was tough. Balancing 3 part-time jobs with my studies to make ends meet, I watched my perfect grades slip. The irony of my situation wasn't lost on me. While I struggled, my parents likely continued to invest in Hudson's sporting future. Then a family emergency called me back home. My grandmother needed surgery after a fall. Despite my mother's protests, I flew back to support her, maxing out my credit card to do so. Seeing Grandma so vulnerable reminded me why I had fought so hard for my independence. Her smile when she saw me confirmed it was worth every sacrifice. "Little bird," she called me, her voice weak, but filled with love. "You shouldn't have come all this way," she said, but I knew it was exactly where I needed to be. As I entered the room, I approached her with caution, gently taking her hand, being mindful of the tension in the air. "Why didn't you just call me?" she asked, averting her gaze. "I didn't want to alarm you," I replied. She then brought up a sensitive issue. "Your mother mentioned you've been struggling in your classes." I was taken aback. She said your grades were dropping and you might lose your scholarship. The room suddenly felt claustrophobic. Despite leaving for college months ago, my parents hadn't reached out once. Yet, they'd been discussing my alleged academic failures with Grandma. I asserted confidently, my grades are actually fine. And if they weren't, it'd be because I'm juggling 3 jobs to make ends meet since they drained my savings. Grandma's expression grew stern. They did what? Before I could elaborate, my parents walked in, my mother with fresh flowers, my father with a newspaper under his arm. They stopped dead when they saw me. "Sophia," my mom said, attempting to recover. "We told you not to come." Ignoring her, I stood up slowly. "Funny how you suddenly have opinions about my choices," I said. "Why are you lying about my grades?" My dad stepped forward. "We're just worried you're not focusing on your studies because of all the jobs." I couldn't help but laugh, though it was devoid of humor. That's rich, coming from those who stole my savings for my siblings' sports training. "Lower your voice," my mother snapped, annoyed. "This isn't the place." It was then that Grandma interjected softly, yet firmly, cutting through the tension like a knife. "They took your savings?" she asked. I nodded, feeling the weight of the revelation. "I've been sending you $700 every month for your education. What happened to that money?" The room went silent. My parents avoided eye contact. "What money?" I asked slowly. "I've been sending it since you started college," Grandma continued. I was stunned. Nearly $20,000 over 3 years that never reached me. "You've been?" I couldn't even finish my sentence, my hands shaking as I gripped the bed rail. I reflected on all the nights I went hungry, all the times I nearly dropped out because I couldn't afford textbooks. "We needed it for Hudson's college fund," my mother whispered. "We thought since you had a scholarship." "Get out," Grandma demanded in a steel voice. "Both of you, get out of my room now." They left without a word, but I barely noticed. I was consumed by thoughts of all the hours I'd worked, the meals I'd skipped, the nights I'd cried myself to sleep. "Little bird," Grandma reached for my hand. "We're going to fix this together." I looked at her, the woman who had always been my real guardian, and made a decision.
"No, Grandma.
I'm going to fix this. And they're going to regret every penny they took. It wasn't just about revenge now, it was about justice. And I was just getting started. Years later, after graduation, I was a portfolio manager at a tech firm in San Francisco. I had my own apartment and was financially stable enough to ensure Grandma lived comfortably. I thought I had moved past my family drama until I met Luca. He was unlike anyone I'd ever known. He laughed easily, loved deeply, and could see through my walls. On our 3rd date, he asked about my family. "It's complicated," I began, stirring my coffee. "Try me," he encouraged. So I told him everything about the deceit, about Hudson, about the stolen money. He listened without judgment and then took my hand. "They didn't deserve you," he said simply. We married 4 months later with only Grandma present. I was truly happy for the first time in my life. Then the email came. "Your brother's been arrested," my mom wrote. "We need your help." I deleted it without a second thought, but more messages followed, pleading for $90,000 for legal fees. "Tell them no," Lucas said when I showed him the emails. "You don't owe them anything." He was right, and I knew it. But that night, I lay awake, recalling my little brother's wide-toothed smile, his hand in mine as we walked to the park. Was I becoming just like them, choosing who deserved love and who didn't? The decision was made for me when I discovered I was pregnant. Looking at the positive test, everything shifted. I made a solemn vow to my unborn child that I would be the one to break the cycle of favoritism in our family. When I wrote to my parents, I made it clear that I would no longer be their fallback option. Finn arrived into the world on a rainy Tuesday in March, perfect in every way with his tiny fingers and toes, and eyes that seemed to contain boundless wisdom. Holding him, I felt an overwhelming sense of what my own parents had failed to provide. "He's beautiful," Grandma whispered as she touched his cheek. She had moved to San Francisco after her surgery and became for Finn the doting grandmother she had been to me. Then a letter arrived, not an email, but a formal one on heavy paper with an official letterhead. It was from the attorneys of William, stating they were filing for bankruptcy protection after mortgaging their house to cover Hudson's legal expenses. They were now losing everything, and the letter concluded with a plea for financial help, citing family obligations. As I read and reread the letter in my kitchen while Finn napped upstairs, the irony of the term family obligations they had never extended to me, struck me hard. Luca found me an hour later, the crumpled letter still in my hand. "They want money," I stated flatly. His question about what I would do hung in the air. The family photos on our wall, images filled with genuine love and joy like Finn's first smile and our wedding, reminded me of what true family looked like. "I don't know," I whispered, torn. Helping them felt like perpetuating the abuse. Not helping felt like self-protection. Luca suggested, "If you don't, you're protecting yourself and your son." But with Finn in my life, I realized the deep, lasting marks even neglectful parents leave. That night, I wrote 2 checks, one for my parents' mortgage company and one for a trust fund for Finn, ensuring different futures for each. "This isn't forgiveness," I noted in the letter accompanying the checks. "This is goodbye." I sealed the envelope, aware that this likely wasn't the end. They would probably ask for more. I had never planned to attend that Thanksgiving dinner, but Grandma's health concerns and her wish for one last family gathering drew me back to my childhood home. 4-year-old Finn clutched my hand tightly as we entered, the house heavy with a sense of turkey and underlying tension. My parents welcomed Finn warmly but barely acknowledged me. Dad and Hudson were engrossed in football, ignoring my presence. Only Grandma, busy in the kitchen, kept me from leaving immediately. Dinner began quietly until Finn innocently shattered the facade by comparing his grandparents to a piggy bank used only when needed. The room fell silent. As tension mounted, I seized the moment to confront my family about their calls for financial help throughout the year, each one centered on their needs, not mine. "When is the time?" I challenged as Dad tried to shut down the conversation. "When you need another check." Turning to Hudson, I revealed the truth about how his college fund came at the expense of my savings and Grandma's contributions intended for my education. Dad's angry outburst cut through the room, but I stood firm, pointing out the only family member who had genuinely cared, Grandma, who now watched with tears in her eyes. I declared that I was done enabling their behavior as I placed an envelope on the table containing records of every penny they had taken, along with a copy sent to my lawyer. "This isn't a threat," I clarified as I prepared to leave. "I'm setting you free. You no longer need to pretend to care about me." With that, I walked out, leaving behind the obligations that had weighed me down for so long, ready to build a future with those who truly valued me. I collected Finn, who nestled his face in my neck, as I made it clear to my mother. "You'll never treat my son the way you did me. He'll never experience being the unwanted child," I told her firmly. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded, reminding me they were still my parents. I responded gently but firmly, "No, you simply showed me the type of mother I never want to be." As I turned to leave, I paused to add, "And one more thing. I've set up a trust fund for Finn, one that you can't touch." That's what real parents do. They safeguard their children's futures, not sabotage them. As we walked away, my grandmother joined us, walking with dignity. Behind us, I could hear my mother's cries and my father's furious voice. For the first time, I felt free from the burden of their emotions. In the car, Finn, looking concerned, asked if Thanksgiving was still on for next year. "Yes, baby," I reassured him, smiling at Luca's supportive look in the rearview mirror. "But from now on, we celebrate only with those who truly know how to love." 4 months later, after that Thanksgiving, I received an envelope from my parents' lawyer. Inside was the deed to their house, signed over to me following their bankruptcy, and moved to a modest home closer to my brother Hudson's new job. The favored child had faltered, and they had faltered with him. Sitting in Grandma's garden, watching Finn help her plant spring bulbs, I pondered the weight of the envelope in my lap. Grandma, wiping the dirt from her hands, remarked, "Your mother was just like her parents. They favored her brother too. That's why I tried so hard with you." I was taken aback. "Really?" I asked, surprised. Yes, and I watched history repeat itself, powerless to stop it, just as I couldn't stop your mother from becoming what she despised. The revelation struck me profoundly. All these years, I had thought I was navigating this journey alone, yet here was Grandma, bearing similar wounds, fighting similar battles. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked. She gave me a sad smile. "Would it have really helped? Some lessons we have to learn on our own. The important part is what we do with those lessons." Finn ran over, beaming with pride, eager to show us the flowers he'd helped plant. Luca's discovery of a worm during his playful exploration outdoors left him with a sparkle in his eyes and earth-stained hands. In that pure, unguarded moment, I realized what true inheritance was. It wasn't about financial wealth or property, but the ability to embrace love unreservedly and find happiness in the simplest of activities. That evening, as I sat in our home office surrounded by old family photographs, Luca walked in and gently massaged my shoulders, asking what was on my mind. "I'm reflecting on how easy it is to perpetuate hurt," I answered. He quickly reminded me, "But you didn't. You chose to break that pattern." The following day brought an unexpected visit from Hudson, who seemed worn and weary, a stark contrast to the radiant, confident figure he once was. Standing awkwardly in our living room, he confessed his ignorance about the family's financial dealings and the impact they had on me. "You are just a child," I responded softly, acknowledging our shared innocence. He expressed a desire to make amends, even though it would take time. "Keep the money," I interrupted. "Use it to rise above what we were taught." He departed with tears in his eyes and a vow to be a better role model for Finn, my son. I was unsure if I believed him, but I realized that my joy no longer hinged on their moral redemption. That night, I penned 2 letters, one to my parents, returning the deed to their house with a note explaining that it served as payment for the life lessons they imparted about what I should avoid as a parent. The other letter was for Finn, meant to be opened on his 19th birthday, detailing the truths of our family's past, not to weigh him down, but to illustrate how love can illuminate a path forward. As I sealed Finn's letter, laughter and warmth drifted from the kitchen below, where he and his grandmother were baking cookies with Luca. The joyful noise made me realize that my understanding of revenge had evolved. It was no longer about inflicting pain, but about healing and reclaiming my peace. Descending to join them, I found the kitchen alive with the aroma of vanilla and the joyous chaos of baking. We made cookies, but they're a bit messy, Luca chuckled, flour speckling his hair. "They're perfect," I assured him, and I truly believed it. Because sometimes, the best form of liberation isn't about evening the score, but in finding freedom, and freedom, I've come to understand, tastes wonderfully like slightly burnt cookies crafted with loving hands and joyful hearts.